Hello, everybody. So glad to be with you today. You are listening to Night Views right here on CJTR's 91.3 FM Regina Community Radio. Here's where we talk to industry captains and independent business leaders right here in our Queen City. I'm your host, Sherry Knight, coach and author who guides businesses to increase their productivity. And we know what that means. It adds to the bottom line, and that keeps people here in Saskatchewan employed. And our guest today is Ali Cadili. And Ali, this is really interesting because I just I sent out on my Facebook that we were interviewing Ali Cadili, and he is with Body Sculpting, and all of a sudden this name comes up that says Ali Cahill, and I'm going, where did that come from? Facebook drives me nuts.
It's this autocorrect. So
Yes!
I was getting a lot of referrals from other people, and it says Dr. Cadillac.
Cadillac. Oh, that's a good one.
And then I was like, why are they calling me that? Is it just, then we looked into it. Apparently it's an autocorrect that makes it Cadillac. So you try Cadili, it goes Cadillac.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And mine went Cahill. So
Cahill.
There we go. Can't win.
I should compile a list of these names.
Exactly.
My alternate names.
Oh, dear. So Ali is here because he's sharing with us some exciting things that are happening in our city, and actually in the country. You've got something new that's coming into Saskatchewan that is part and parcel of Canada First.
Yeah, so we, Body Sculpting Regina, we do medical aesthetics, and we do it in a different way. It's all non-invasive.
And when you say non-invasive, what does that mean for most of us that don't understand
So mostly it means non-surgical. So most people understand what liposuction is, to permanently remove fat and reshape your body. So we have machines like Cool Sculpting that does it non-invasively, meaning it's just an applicator to the surface of the skin, and then a certain percentage of the fat is gone permanently after a while.
Yes, people love that.
Yeah, so that's Cool Sculpting. It uses cold freezing technology to freeze the fat. And then we're bringing in hot sculpting, a specific type of hot sculpting that is going to be the first in the province.
Wow. And so I can visualize Cool Sculpting. What does hot sculpting mean?
So instead of applying heat to the area, it's a certain laser. So that's where the word hot. It has cooling technology on it to cool the skin, so you don't actually feel hot or uncomfortable during the procedure.
Okay.
But it destroys the fat cells through heat rather than cold and freezing, and they're permanently gone after a while.
And that's interesting when you say permanently gone, because we have this vision that our little old fat cells are with us for our entire life.
Yeah, so the fat cells are there. If you gain weight, lose weight, they shrink or blow up. But with this technology, what it does, it permanently removes some of them, and the body does not regrow fat cells in that manner. So once they're gone, they're gone. That's how liposuction works. It's permanent.
Okay, interesting. And so this whole concept is reasonably new. The hot sculpting is quite new, but the cool sculpting is also reasonably new.
Yeah, I mean, it's been around for quite a while, but in terms of popularity and the improvements in technology to make it that much more effective and comfortable, that is relatively new. Let's say about 10 years when it's really caught on fire or ice.
And so is your clientele mostly women, mostly men, mix of the two?
It's mostly women.
Okay.
Probably 90% women.
Because we care how we look, for sure.
Yeah, I think with males there may be... I think males want it just as much as women do, to be honest with you. Maybe not as much, but close. But there's that psychological barrier in their mind that, that's a female thing in terms of, so...
Fair enough.
There's still that, yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. And so when we look at all of this, you've set up this organization here in the city, and there's all kinds of fun things that are related to setting up a business, and there's also all kinds of challenges. But you've got a medical background.
Yeah, and I've got to tell you, that was a walk in the park.
Which part?
Training, in the medical world, practicing medicine. I mean, it has its difficulties and challenges, of course. But you have a specific set of training, and then you follow certain parameters. This has proven to be much more difficult.
When you say this...
Generally speaking, venturing into the real world, as I like to call it, and opening a business. And then it teaches you about life. You get to know what people, how to deal with people, and it teaches you more about relations, people, management, all sorts of concepts that you would have approached in a very different and more superficial way as a doctor. If you're a professional, it doesn't have to be a doctor, engineer, whatever it is. You're trained and then you work in a specific setting. You're kind of shielded from the real world. You don't have to go out there and do something, create something with all the details and then it's your whole entire financial existence and other people's livelihoods on the line, whether depending on whether you fail or succeed. So,
and that's very true because there's a certain amount of comfort in having a regular paycheck. Every month I will get X number of dollars because the company wants my services, or the hospital or whatever wants my services. But all of a sudden, when you're an owner of a business, I don't know about you, but everybody else gets paid, and then I get paid if there's anything left.
Correct. It's venturing into very unsafe territory. So I remember when I set things up, the contractor takes a ton of money, the lease, the machines that you're buying or leasing, and everybody's paid up front, your employees, and then it depends on you. How can you make it back? How can you get all that back?
Right.
So their cut is guaranteed, yours is not.
That's right. Always.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so what made you decide to get into business?
Naivety. So, it starts out as, if traditionally, people have extra money, they'll put it into an RRSP account or something, or they'll venture into real estate, something that's not management intensive.
Right.
And then I had the idea of, why not putting into something that can work, make a splash and impact in the world, actually employ other people and make a difference in their lives, and maybe get to create and do new things. That all sounds awesome, right? But there's a reason nobody else does it. It's very difficult to do it and then succeed at it.
Well, the average business doesn't last after the first 2 years.
Yes. Yeah. So if you're a busy professional elsewhere and you have a day job, how do you do this?
At night.
Exactly. So, it means you're leaving it to other people to one extent or another.
That's right.
Not easy. Not as easy as it may look or sound.
Mm-hmm. That's a really good point, because when you bring someone else in, if they don't have the same vision that you do, it can be a real challenge. Been there, done that.
Yeah, I think it's just normal. It's not that people are good or bad. It's just that you have a bunch of people that will all be, when there's no central authority, will be pulling in a different direction according to their own interest. And they'll do enough work to keep the work going, but they won't do more than that. So if there's nobody there to set the pace and set the standard,
right,
instill that culture, it will veer off into all sorts of directions. And then it's more difficult to change that direction that's already been established. Certainly. Rather than creating a new one from the ground up.
That makes total sense, the concern about change, yes, because that means that people have some of their ways perhaps set in stone because they've been doing it this way, and then all of a sudden somebody wants to change it.
And that's been an astounding discovery to me as to how resistant people really are to change. And I'm talking young people too. Mm-hmm. It is astounding, and maybe it's because it's a little bit different from me, my own personal temperament, where I am changing, and I do like change and evolution, but I kind of underestimate how it is difficult for some people to do that or want to do that. They will resist change.
And so, if you're having people resist, what techniques are you finding work to help people be more comfortable with change?
So it's a difficult and gradual process. If it's not gradual, then you risk everything collapsing, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And then it's almost like you have to make it known that there are now rules, expectations in place that are a little bit different, introduce them in a gentle way that fit with how things run already. It's important to capitalize on what's going well and then try to change things that are not. And then in terms of the individual people, it has to honestly be an individualized approach. It's a different per employee or per person. So then you have to understand that particular person and their makeup, their interests, what are their goals, what are their fears. And it's not easy. So
it's very interesting you bring that up because, if you've got children, you generally realize that each one is their own individual. And yet we don't always make that leap from children to the adults who are working with us.
Correct, yeah.
Same
so
thing.
If you have children in the house and they understand that they are just free to do what they want on their own, they'll all pull in a different direction. Mm-hmm. That is ultimately going to be detrimental to them because there's no household anymore.
Right.
So,
yeah.
But they won't see it that way.
Yeah, very interesting. And you know, as I introduce things, I talk about us being able to be employed here in the city. And with that, it's really critical because if by chance we aren't building the business, then the employees have no job.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of it's a little bit counterintuitive, and there's a little bit of human nature in it to always, it's difficult to let go of the short-term gain. Like, let's say I want to slack off a bit or leave earlier or do whatever or not work as much, and balancing that with the long-term gain. So are you ready to give up some short-term gains for long-term gains, meaning what's good for the companies to ensure that you in turn have a great job,
right.
And then you'll be noticed and recognized hopefully too, while you're being a great above average worker.